Welcome back. Credit card debt is at a record high. Nearly 3 in 10 Americans say they owe more money than they have saved up, which means that one surprise expense, a car repair, a medical bill, can turn into a whole financial spiral. So today we are talking about the thing that we all know we should have, but maybe don't quite have one yet: an emergency fund. So we've got Josh Stevens, Vice President with DeWitt & Dunn Financial Services, here to help make this feel a little less overwhelming. Josh, good morning. Always great to have you here on Daybreak.
Morning. Glad to be here.
So let's start with the why. Why should you have an emergency fund, and realistically, how much should we be putting into it?
Look, we all are going to go through circumstances that are unplanned, unexpected, whether that be an emergency medical bill, whether that's your car blowing up and having to get a new car or whatever. There's going to be things that happen throughout our life, and we need to be prepared for it the best that we can. So I typically recommend for my clients that are still working between 3 to 6 months of living expenses. My clients that are already retired, I like to bump that up to 6 to 12 months. So let's say the typical family is spending $5,000 a month. Well, then if you have multiple income sources and a stable job, you could get away with having $15,000 in your emergency fund. But maybe if you only have one income source coming into the household, or you have irregular income, it might be better to bump that up to 6 months or $30,000 of monthly set aside for your monthly emergency fund.
Good to know. I think a lot of people hear emergency fund and immediately think, great, it's yet another thing that I'm behind on. So what's the best way to start?
Well, you just got to start sometime, right? Even if it's a little bit. Look at your monthly expenses, how much going out versus how much going in. So having a strong budget will help you understand how much money you have left over each month to go towards that emergency fund. And even if you have to start small, it's better than nothing. Once you get into the rhythm, then you can look at certain categories in your budget, maybe entertainment or eating out, that you can cut back on and reallocate those dollars towards that emergency fund so you can build that up. Also, another good tip is setting it up automatic. So have the money each month sweep from your checking account over into your emergency fund, and even have that emergency fund separate from your checking and savings so that you're not tempted to spend it on the next vacation or next shiny thing that we see. And then also you can get that money working for you better than your checking and savings if you look at a high yield savings account or maybe even a money market account. These are paying between 3 and 4%. So that interest compounding will help build that fund as well. And then finally, you have to commit to yourself that you're not going to touch the money. You don't want to use that money unless it's truly for an emergency. And if you do use it, you have to rebuild that emergency fund for the next emergency coming up.
Well, thank you so much for being here. Really helpful advice, especially when it feels like every bill, grocery run, and quick errand costs more than it used to. Thanks for being on Daybreak with us this morning, Josh, and we will have more after the break.